need a passion for something. Passion comes first. Because it's anything you do, it's a really, I keep telling in the company, like whatever we do is a marathon, it's not a sprint. You always need to think long term. Actually, I completed my education and everything in India around 2000 time frame, and then luckily, straight away I got an opportunity to come and work in London. I finished my MCA. On the final day, Friday, I finished my exam, and luckily I got an offer to come and work straight on Monday morning here in London. That's how I came to London. And for the first 10 years after coming here, like I worked as a typical IT consultant, worked for companies like Accenture, Microsoft, Fidelity Investments, and a couple more companies in the 10 years period. And I was specialized in a specific technology called BizTalk Server from Microsoft. It's an enterprise integration product. And that is what I've been specializing for 10 years. And after working for 10 years, I just identified some gaps faced by some of the larger companies, Fortune 500 companies. Like they're typically, trying to fix it every time they build up a team, and they try to do that, address the problems around security, monitoring, and analytics, and those kind of things. And that is how, the first idea for this product, BizTalk 360, came to me. And around 2010, I thought, I'll just, it started more like a hobby project. So we initially were planning to do like an open source thing. But eventually, I built the first version, and that became as a company. I was alone. I spent about 2 years building it, and then gradually built up the team. And then for the first 5 years, we were focused only on that particular product. And in 2013, we set up this India office, and then we scaled the team gradually. And since 2015 onwards, we started building multiple products. And today we have like 5 products in the company. Look at my entire childhood, and how grown up in the past. I mentioned, since I was 12 years old, I used to work with my father in the small shop in back in India. That I see it as right from 12, you run when you run a shop in India, where it's not there are no proper accounts, and when you have people working, you need somebody trustable in the business. And when my father always used to take me into the business, and you learn everything at that very young age, how to transact with your partners, and banking and finance and everything. I keep saying, it's basically what I'm doing now is basically it's a magnitude. The principles are the same, but the scale is different. That is the only change I am seeing. Once you graduated, you typically that is when is IT was right at its peak and boom. And this is back in 2000, all this .com and year 2000, and it was so easy to get a job and also get a really good salary. And that is how I got into IT. And I'd spent, and also, I was very passionate as well about the technology side. Somehow, I got so attached to building anything to do with computers, basically. One interesting thing is, when in my 12th standard, I got 200 out of 200 in computers, but I just managed to pass on the remaining subjects. So that is always, it's on my thing, somehow I got connected to the computers. And when the opportunity came, I switched into a typical, IT job. But it's always, even during the 10-year period, I was continuously attempting to do this and that. It's not that regular, day-to-day job. You go to work and come back. That is one side. Even back in India, between 97 and 2000, I, build some things like, building a software using Visual Basic for running training centers and, some gas agencies and things like that. And maybe it was always there, we want to build something, and that part of that childhood thing of entrepreneurial thing all mixed up. And after 10 years in corporate, when the opportunity came, it basically organically, gradually you switched into the mode of starting the business, and all those things you learned over your childhood, it kicked off. And also in my case, it was not like a overnight switch. It was not like like, okay, from tomorrow I'm going to start a new business. It happened gradually. Like, I went to my manager at that time, and I agreed to work part-time for about a year while I was building the product. And then even up to getting like 30 customers, I was working part-time with that existing client. It's all transparent and they're aware. And eventually, as the time was right, I just managed to move from stage by stage, and then moved into business completely. So yeah, I think this is how it all worked out, how I transformed from corporate to a business side. Yeah. When people look at me, or even giving interviews like this, right? You might have seen a lot of interviews given in channels. I'm a more of a introvert person, which is very surprise. It's a big surprise for a lot of people. Like within my friend circle, they sometimes they question like, how do I run a company of nearly 220 employees. Typically, when I'm going for this friends get together or family get together, you'll see me talking. I'm a great listener. I keep listening to conversations, and but hardly I speak or engage, and socializing is very, very less. But when it comes to the company side and the day-to-day activities, I'm completely on the other side. Again, I don't talk too much, but the right places, right things, and when it comes to interviews and things like that, I don't know. Somehow the switch changes. So that is something people may not be aware of from people who are mainly from outside. It will be very hard for them to see me as an introvert. Yeah. And as I mentioned, originally the company was started with a single product. I think that is a natural thing for most of the startups. You start with one product, and over a period you see opportunities, and you start spinning new products, and that's exactly what happened with us. So 2010, 2011, we started the company with a single product called BizTalk 360. And first 5 years we concentrated purely on that one product, and we scaled it well. And it reached a stage where like the product was super matured, and we had a massive team. And I felt being an engineer myself, like if I don't do something, there is a risk of losing the talent what we have built, because engineers, of course, over a period you get bored and you don't want to do the repeated things again and again. That is kind of the starting point. And then we looked at what are the other opportunities we have, and that is when all the cloud technologies were starting to boom. And being in Microsoft space, we started building our second product on the Microsoft Azure called Serverless360. And after 2 years, around 2017, the third product, Document 360, came, which is basically it came out of our own frustration. When we wanted to write knowledge bases for these two products, BizTalk 360 and Serverless 360, because they are enterprise products, and you need to have a really good knowledge base for end customers. And we found a gap in the market. Like, none of the products in the market were matching some of the real enterprise characteristics of a knowledge base, and that is how Document 360 was formed. And in 2019, we acquired a company called Cerebrata. That is again something to do with the Microsoft Azure space. And there's also one small product we have, Atomic Scope, that is more related to BizTalk 360. So in terms of relationships, the four products are connected well together. BizTalk 360, Serverless 360, Cerebrata, and Atomic Scope. They all come under this Microsoft integration, Microsoft Azure space, and they're well connected. Even internally, we call it as integration products. And Document 360 is one thing that is separate, and it's a wider market, and it's catered for anybody. It's nothing to do with Microsoft. It's a very generic product. And this is when, originally people used to identify as BizTalk 360. That is how the first 5 years. But after, you got so many products, it became a confusion point. Like, how do you need to get an identity for yourself. And that is when we decided to rebrand ourselves as a Kovai.co. I think it happened around 2018. I think 2018 is when we rebranded it. But the original company name was always, the registered company name was always Kovai Limited, right from the beginning. But we didn't push the company name too much in the beginning. But when all these multiple products start to evolve, then we did a full branding exercise. We had the complete logo design, branding design, everything, and then we launched all the products under this Kovai.co umbrella. Even like we managed to acquire the Kovai.com domain, which was a real, as these days, anybody, if they think, even before you think about a product, the first thing you do is you check the domain names, right? You need to make sure the domains are available. So in our case, since we did it the other way around, but luckily, we managed to secure it, and now we got the Kovai.com domain, which is very powerful, given the name is associated with the city. Yeah. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is, persistence. Okay, before that, I'll say you need a passion for something. Passion comes first. Because it's anything you do, it's a really, I keep telling in the company, like whatever we do is a marathon, it's not a sprint. You always need to think long term. I even quote this famous quote from Bill Gates. People overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years time, because it's all cumulative thing. You leave it for, you continuously do something for a longer period. The impact of creating something bigger is people don't realize that. In order to do that, you need to have the passion to sustain that long period of time. For example, even today I get excited about the product design, and I spend at least a couple of hours every day in one of our products. So I give feedback continuously to the team, and that is what I like. If I get sometimes you get stuck, you don't know what task you need to do, because you always, as a CEO, you have 1,000 things to work on. But sometimes your mind will get stuck, and whenever I'm in that mode, I always go to the product and spend a lot of time in the product, and then I'll come back. So you need to have that kind of a passion before you do something. And the second thing is a persistence. You need to be persistent. People think, especially the new younger generation, they think it's all overnight success. Nothing is overnight success. Even when you see some of the famous games, like things like Angry Bird, for example, people thought it's an overnight success, but they don't know that it took them 10 years for that company. They failed multiple times. They've been in the gaming industry for they were building some Adobe Air based games for a long time, and all of a sudden the Angry Bird and the platform, everything clicked. So you need to be persistent. Whatever you do, you need to be persistent. And this is connected with the passion. If you don't have the passion, you cannot, be persistent on something for a long period of time. And finally, I'll say hard work. Without hard work, nothing comes. Execution is key. You might have great ideas, but executing it is really harder. There's so many hurdles. You need to be, everything need to come together for you to execute successfully. So that is what I'll say. The three things: passion, persistence, and hard work. At the end of the day, you need to pay attention to the real market requirements and what your customers are asking for. That is your number one driver. The secondary part, whether you're a product team or an engineering team, you are all executors, basically, right? Whether a particular product or a particular feature in the product or a module in the product is determined by how useful that particular feature is for your target customers. Without that, if you don't have that clarity, probably you'll end up building a lot of things which nobody wants, which is the biggest problem at the moment for a lot of companies. Because if you don't have the roadmap clear, or if you don't understand your customer requirements clearly, then you will end up building wrong things, which is bad. Because any company, you have a limitation in terms of bandwidth. You only have so many developers and so many product owners and product managers. So you need to be very, very clear on what target market you're going, and you need to understand your customers very well. and then you need to deliver features and things based on that. This side, delivering, implementation, all those things become commodity now. As long as you know what you need, you can build it easily. That is one thing. And the second thing what we do is, we have something called feedback.document360.com, where all our customers and can go and put the feedback. And when we are looking at some of the requests that's coming, we mark them as, whether it's a beginner level issue or intermediate level issue or an advanced issue. Beginner level is something fundamentally wrong in the product. Say, for example, cut, copy, paste, right? If that is broken in a Word document, that basically is a very low level, beginner level problem. And if you have things like that, you need to pay a lot of attention to sort those things out as soon as possible. Certain features, certain requirement come as a very advanced edge case scenarios. Maybe, somebody want analytics for a security group or something like that, right? That is a very niche area, and it can wait. So, that is how we prioritize the features within the product. You need to have a certain level of domain knowledge. There is a discussion about whether you need to have a domain knowledge or not. Without knowing something, if you get into building that part, I personally feel it's very challenging and difficult to execute. Even in our own 10 years of journey, we, of course, we have failed products in the company as well. It's almost like, movies, right? People only talk about, I think the ratio is, only 10% of the movies, the start will hit the screen. 90% of them will fail. Even so, for us, there are few failed products in the company. And more, though, if you look at it carefully, why those products failed, basically we attempted to build something where we didn't face the pain ourselves, or we didn't know enough about that market. If this happens, basically, you see some companies growing faster. Maybe, for today, for example, there's a event hosting videos and running events because of the COVID. It's becoming booming faster and faster, and some of the companies gone into a few $1 billion valuations within a short period of time. If you jump and start building it, you will hit roadblocks all over the place. So I feel if you don't have the domain knowledge, be cautious entering that domain, because you might spend a lot of time learning and, a lot of time making mistakes. You go in one direction and then you think that's not right. You come back, you probably won't have that much time to, sustain. So at least some level of domain knowledge is important. There are cases where people executed without domain knowledge, but that's very rare. And for that, maybe situation and market, and they may be able to hire the right people with the domain knowledge in the company. All those things would have happened. But generally speaking, I prefer either you saw the pain. Like, for example, Document 360, we saw the pain ourselves, and that is the reason why we are able to build a product which is useful for ourselves, and then able to sell it to the market. Or BizTalk 360 is again same. I had 10 years of experience on the domain, and that is another reason why it's successful. So I think that is the advice I will give here.